Silicon Valley is known throughout the world as a vital center of technological innovation. But before all the startups, before all the venture capital, the think tanks, and research parks, there were two young men working together in a one-car garage behind the house at 367 Addison Avenue in Palo Alto. This is where it began. Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard met while at college. They were undergrad students at Stanford University from 1930 to 1934, where they both studied under Professor Fred Terman.
Fred Terman saw the potential in Bill and Dave, and he became a mentor to them. His ongoing support and encouragement was critical to establishing the company. He supported them first as students and then as entrepreneurs.
After graduation, the two young men pursued opportunities elsewhere, but they stayed in touch, often discussing plans to launch their own business together. In 1938, with the country still mired in the Great Depression, Dave decided to return to Palo Alto with his wife Lucille, where he'd reunite with Bill and launch their business. A bold move in such dire economic times. As the Packards prepared for their trek to Palo Alto, California, Bill searched for the ideal property to house their startup. He found it on Addison Avenue, a tidy craftsman with a modest garden shed. The Packards would take residence in the house's ground floor apartment, while Bill bunked in the very convenient yet very rustic shed. And tucked behind the house stood the single most crucial piece of Bill and Dave's vision, the garage.
Our image of Silicon Valley is very much tied in with the idea of brash young entrepreneurs disrupting industries with tech they designed in their garage. That image first comes to us from this garage.
Merely 12 by 18 feet in measurement, the garage would serve as the site of Hewlett-Packard Company's startup, and ultimately, the birthplace of Silicon Valley. Humble, dusty, and slightly cramped, the garage gave the two men freedom to create and develop their product ideas. They would eventually focus their work on designing and building resistance-tuned audio oscillators.
As technology, Hewlett-Packard's first product was an unqualified home run. It was an oscillator based on a breakthrough Hewlett had performed. It was on par with the best stuff out there at a fraction of the price. So Bill and Dave knew they had a winner on their hands. But they also were worried that they might face some skepticism as 220-somethings selling a new technology that they were building in their garage. To try and offset that, they named their product the 200A in the hopes it would sound like Hewlett-Packard had been around for a while and this was only their newest offering. Apparently it worked because the 200A sold very well and Hewlett-Packard continued to sell products based on Hewlett's breakthrough for at least 30 years.
The 200A caught the attention of Bud Hawkins, chief sound engineer for Walt Disney Studios. With some modifications, it became the 200B. Hawkins ordered 8 units at $71.50 each, which Disney used to test its new sound system for the movie Fantasia. As they refined their designs, Bill and Dave decided to formalize the business on January 1st, 1939. What had begun as a dream shared by two college friends had officially become Hewlett-Packard Company.
There were times when Bill and Dave's production efforts spread from the garage into the house. For instance, the garage obviously did not have an industrial oven, so they baked the enamel paint for their first products using the oven in the Packard's kitchen. Lucille was, as always, very supportive of this, though she later noted that the smell lingered for weeks and nothing she baked in that oven tasted quite right.
The Packard's living room did double duty as a space for impromptu meetings, while the dining room also served as Hewlett-Packard's first office, where Lucille Packard kept the books and typed all company correspondence. Every evening, Dave and Lou would move the dining table aside and open up their Murphy bed. In 1939, Bill married Flora Lamson, and the couple moved to their own house. With the shed now empty, Flora and Lucille used it to set up an office, where they continued to handle administrative and marketing functions for the young company, while holding down full-time jobs that brought in crucial financial support to the young families. The shed became HP's first dedicated office space, while work continued in the garage.
The garage is more than where Hewlett-Packard developed its first products. It's also where they developed their model of employee relations, particularly the idea of treating people as individuals and pursuing collaborative relationships. If you look at the space behind me, there's no room for hierarchy, right? It's people working side by side trying to get the job done. That's maybe not surprising when you're talking about the two founders, but they actually hired their first employee in this garage too, a man named Harvey Zeber. And he would have occupied the same space, working mere feet from his bosses, treated like a social peer, even if he didn't have the same level of responsibility.
The two partners' way of working created the foundation of a Hewlett-Packard ethos. Its people-first ideology, combined with Bill and Dave's can-do work ethic, led to significant growth. Their startup was becoming something bigger, and with it came a change of address. In 1956, HP announced its lease for manufacturing operations at 1501 Page Mill Road at Stanford Research Park. Bill and Dave's company had found a home.
This move was a huge step for Bill and Dave. It's really where their vision for HP came to life because they had the space and the resources to create the kind of corporate environment that they envisioned.
As leaders, Bill and Dave brought a powerful curiosity to bear at work. Together and separately, they were in the habit of walking the shop floor to keep in touch with the projects underway there, often huddling with engineers to share ideas and brainstorm solutions, a practice that came to be called management by walking around. When they weren't on the shop floor, you could find Bill and Dave in their offices. The men's desks shared a clear line of sight through a common doorway, so the two friends remained connected at all times. And their relationship to their employees was equally straightforward and approachable.
Here's an interesting thing about Bill and Dave's offices. Their doors were always open to employees, literally. If you look around their offices, you can see where decades of Palo Alto sun have faded the woodwork everywhere except behind their office doors because they were always kept open. Bill and Dave were very generous with their time, their expertise, and their advice, and they also understood it was important for employees to feel listened to. As late as 1975, when the company was doing around $1 billion a year in business, Bill and Dave were still circulating memos to management at all levels of the company telling them how important it was to maintain the open door policy.
Bill and Dave's unique management style, forged in the garage and perfected at Page Mill Road, continues to have a profound, lasting impact throughout the Bay Area tech sector and beyond. The garage is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and is officially designated as the birthplace of Silicon Valley. The Page Mill Road headquarters still stands as a shrine to the early days of Hewlett-Packard Company, the predecessor to Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and HP Inc., and as a reminder of the accomplishments of Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard. What began as a simple dream in a small, dirt-floored garage had grown to become one of the most successful and influential businesses in the world.